Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to episode 4 of the Marvel Annotated podcast. On this episode, we'll go over the casting of Ms. Marvel, Jamie Foxx returning as Electro, kind of a roundup, like a state of the union, if you will, on the Marvel's kind of multiverse, the thing they have going on here. And we'll wrap this episode up, our fourth segment, with a leak from the Eternals. Now, it's a pretty jam-packed episode, which always means hopefully a greater conversation. And if you're listening on YouTube, the first 3 segments are uploaded at 4, 6, and 8 p.m. Eastern Time, respectively, every Tuesday. And if you'd like to hear the full audio version, not broken up into segments, including the bonus 4th segment, follow the podcast on either Spotify or SoundCloud. Links will be in the description, or just feel free to search Marvel Annotated on Spotify or SoundCloud. And those go up at noon Eastern Time, same day, which for this podcast is Tuesday. But joined with me today, we have Jackson from Full Circle. So Jackson, I'll just give you opportunity to introduce yourself, say a little bit about you and Full Circle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. I'm Jackson Hayes. I'm editor-in-chief of FullCircleCinema.com. We cover a lot of the same things that H&E do, so we have a lot of crossover with that. Just happy to be here to talk about Marvel. Yeah,
so honestly, it's like the gift that keeps giving in terms of recent weeks with Marvel, because, I think in the general entertainment industry, obviously it's been kind of sparse with COVID and, it's been very slim pickings, you know what I mean? I think just a month ago, some of the biggest news was just like basically someone mentioning they were going to do reshoots, but like the way it was treated was as if like a new person was cast for a movie, or I think it was from Marvel, because they were really quiet until recent weeks. The only thing we had was like the Eternals dropping the in the Eternals, so it's just Eternals, and then some general casting grids, but basically people just kind of rehashing old rumors in old things. So it was getting kind of dry in the desert. But luckily, Marvel giveth and they taketh away, but they giveth again. So, but, speaking of, we kind of touched upon it, but the future of Marvel and unexpected surprises, potentially things that may or may not happen. Maybe one of the most unexpected of announcements came this past week, which is Jamie Foxx returning as Electro within the Spider-Man film franchise, but it seems like it won't be him reappearing as a character he was before, but a new version of Electro. But of course, this swung open, not even swung open, this built a building, and then the building came knocking down from a God-creating natural disaster in terms of how just fast the floodgates opened in terms of theories about Spider-Verse this, Spider-Verse that. What do you think?
I'm going to start right here because this has been a topic of conversation for the last week. Very, very passionate people online taking to different sides. I in no way believe that Jamie Foxx is reprising his role as Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. What I believe is occurring, and obviously Marvel is not here to clarify that because, this gets reported by trades. They are given the information. It's not, there's always lost in translation. They're only allowed to reveal so much.
Exactly.
What is happening here is that the script for Spider-Man 3 was written. Electro was featured. The version of Electro that they are writing, they believe, the powers that be at Marvel Studios believe, that Jamie Foxx, the Academy Award-winning actor, the great actor, who played a very poor version of Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2, not to his fault, but to, the script, the way he was visually, portrayed, it just didn't work. They believe that Jamie Foxx, the Academy Award-winning actor, is the right guy to bring this version of Electro to the screen. It just happens to be that he's already played the character one time before. It's obviously the same way with J. Jonah Jameson, that people are opening up the floodgates about the multiverse. I think that will go away as soon as people realize that it's the same scenario in which they bring back a great actor for a great character, but it's a different iteration. That J. Jonah Jameson we saw at the end of Far From Home is in no way the same one we saw last time in Spider-Man 3. In no way. They're completely different characters. They have little, to do with each other. They just both happen to run a thing called the Daily Bugle. They're both completely different entities. When we get to Spider-Man 3 now, it's very clear that this will be a different version of Electro. Jamie Foxx already alluded to the fact that he's not going to be Blue, which means it's already a more faithful adaptation to the comic books, which Marvel is known for. And we're going to be moving on with a new version of the character just with the same actor. Now, with that said, obviously they're going to be discussing the multiverse. We have a movie coming out in a few months after this one is slated to come out called In the Multiverse of Madness. Obviously, WandaVision is set to deal with things like this. These aren't unfamiliar topics to fans, and obviously Spider-Verse was a huge success. I think that we get to that point at some time down the line. I don't think it's in Spider-Man 3. If we look at it, Multiverse of Madness comes out after Spider-Man does, and WandaVision comes out before, clearly, but there's a 2-year gap. I don't think they're going to take WandaVision's storyline, delve it into Spider-Man 3, and then finish it off in Doctor Strange. I think Spider-Man, they already have enough going on with Spider-Man that they set up at the end of Far From Home that they have enough to deal with. I could be wrong, but I feel very, very strongly that I think that people are misconstruing this idea. And, Jamie Foxx posting that fan art didn't help, but I think it was him just push, being excited and wanting to show off that he's coming back as a character that, people didn't think he got a fair shot at early on. So I think that's where it's at least in my opinion. Obviously everyone else has theirs, but yeah, I don't think this is opening up the floodgates for the legitimate Spider-Verse in live action that people think it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think this has gone really crazy for a multitude of reasons. And I think a lot of people are also assuming that Jamie Foxx and, that he's either reprising the Amazing Spider-Man universe role or version of Electro, or they'll use him to create a Spider-Verse on, between Sony's universe and the MCU, all that stuff, right? I think a lot of that is because in the second movie, Far From Home, with Mysterio, initially he was supposed to be like this outcast from another universe, and that movie was hyped up to be the introduction to a greater multiverse. After Doctor Strange kind of peeked into the door and Endgame stepped in it a little bit and then took its foot out, like this was supposed to be our first fully swing open, like we're getting multiverse realities with proper designations and all that jazz, that whole thing. And I think that hasn't helped the cause, but I gotta say, the scoopers out there haven't helped either. I think one of the biggest red flags with the scoop game and scoopers is when you hear nothing forever, and then a formal announcement from like a trade comes out, and then all of a sudden, like 1,001 scoopers have 1,001, tidbits of information that they're trying to milk out for clicks or whatever. I mean, this I really do feel like was one of those situations because, before for Spider-Man 3, no one knew really anything, and everyone's assumption was either it was going to be Scorpion as the villain or it was going to be Kraven the Hunter as the villain, and we were going to have some sort of on-the-run plot line. And the only reason why a lot of people, and a lot of the scooping game is deduction half the time, only a few scoopers really have true connections. But for those that do the deduction game for their scoops, really all they looked at was, all right, Spidey is on the run. Who is a perfect villain to insert for an on-the-run plotline? Well, Kraven the Hunter, because he would hunt Spider-Man in that instance. So that's where a lot of the Kraven rumors came from. Then you have, if you go to Scorpion, a lot of that came from the fact that they've already kind of set up Matt Gargan in the last Spider-Man film in Homecoming for sure. And the fact that J. Jonah Jameson was not even teased. He was out, full out shown at the end of Far From Home. And you have the whole storyline from the comics where J. Jonah Jameson played a pivotal role in Matt Gargan becoming Scorpion. So, I mean, plus with the Tinkerer on the loose, technically, that originally was part of Vulture's crew, you can easily kind of morph all those elements together to explain how Scorpion gets his exosuit to become Scorpion. I mean, so that's where a lot of these rumors have, from what I've seen, really stemmed from. And I think one of the biggest red flags is where 1 week ago, all the scoopers were still really on that kind of train. That choo-choo train was where they were on. And then this news comes out from, I think it was Deadline or The Hollywood Reporter. I mean, whoever reported it, whichever trade it was, once that comes out, now all of a sudden there's all these multiverse scoops. So, I mean, I just, that was a big red alert to me. I think in honesty, I agree with you, Jackson. they are going to do a different Electro. Now, my first thought actually was maybe when Sony, well, I guess this was Fox, not Sony, but Sony maybe still has contracted Jamie Foxx. And my first thought was maybe since Sony already has that contract with, like you said, acclaimed actor Jamie Foxx, maybe Kevin Feige looked at that and said, well, if he's already technically still contracted for a multi-picture deal, let's use that multi-picture deal, since technically Sony is still making this movie. So it's not like the contract is no longer valid in terms of a Sony Spider-Man film franchise, if I understand that relatively well. And I just think it was a situation where maybe that made it a much easier avenue in terms of if they knew they wanted to do Electro, you might as well just bring Jamie Foxx back for it. At the same time, I think it's been pretty apparent from the Sony leaks that Kevin Feige, when he was emailing Sony tips on how to make The Amazing Spider-Man 2 better, which they basically ignored to their own peril, but Kevin Feige was a huge fan of Jamie Foxx being Electro. So it's not really, like I said, it's not a hard sell to understand behind the scenes why maybe this kind of came together. I don't think he's going to be painted blue again. He already said that he's not going to be blue. I think the route they might go, if they're going to do the On the Hunt storyline, is kind of have a lot of mercenary type characters appear to be the ones hunting Spider-Man. And this might be our first proto-Sinister Six, if you will. I'm assuming Mysterio might be kind of a behind-the-scenes master planner of sorts, since he more or less faked his death. But we could see Scorpion, that Matt Gargan becomes Scorpion in this film as one of the individuals enhanced through some unknown means, whether it's biochemical or mechanical or biomechanical, to become Scorpion. He is someone who is used in like a mercenary type way to hunt Spider-Man, right? That could be one option. And then I think Jamie Foxx's Electro in this movie could be more so like the ultimate version of Mysterio from the Ultimate Universe, in where he's basically just a hired muscle and a henchman that in the Ultimate Universe, he originally works for Kingpin, then joins that Sinister Six. But in this universe, he might just be also like a henchman, so to speak, like Matt Gargan, a mercenary type, who is hired to also assist in hunting Spider-Man. So that's kind of where I think they're going with it. I also talked a lot. My mouth is very dry. So Jackson, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's, you basically hit the nail on the head, jumping off of what I said. I mean, it's, I think people jumped on this more so because if you remember last or late August, we got DC Fandom, oh, Michael Keaton's back as Batman. Oh, Ben Affleck is going to be back as Batman. It's the multiverse. People are so into the multiverse right now. And the Arrowverse and DC's trying to do it, and we had Spider-Verse, and it's big right now. People like it, people want it, and Marvel's obviously going to get there. They're setting it up. But to assume because an actor who played a crappy version of a villain in a crappy movie is coming back as the same villain isn't just him getting another chance. I think is foolish. I think you were spot on when you talked about these scoopers. They had no information, and now suddenly Kristen Dunst and Dane DeHaan are coming back. I don't think so. I think the truth of the matter is Jamie Foxx is a great actor. He was in a bad movie, and now Marvel wants to capitalize with the fact that this version of the character can do justice, and it can redeem Jamie Foxx from having a bad role in a really bad movie. So I think there's nothing else to it. I think we just have to let it play out, and I think when we sit down, hopefully in 2021, to see Spider-Man 3, that we'll realize that, this isn't a multiverse story. It's Jamie Foxx has come to play Electro again because he's the right guy for the role. Yeah,
and actually, so what do you think about the theory I posted? And if you or anyone else at Full Circle can look into it, I would love for you guys to have this scoop, so to speak. But even though, again, it's really just kind of stemming from deduction, but the possibility that one of the reasons they are bringing Jamie Foxx back is because he may still be technically under contract.
No, yeah, and I think that's a very good Sony. Point. I think, it's very loose language in these deals, I mean, the last Spider-Man movie was still up, only 5 years ago was it still kind of in the works, they didn't fully cancel it until they were ready to bring Spider-Man into the MCU in 2015. And even then, we don't know how these contracts work. We don't know whether Andrew Garfield and people like that are still signed on to a third movie, because we know they're going to make it. They announced the movie.
Well, they are. They just
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, they just canceled the movie.
Right,
That's
they were
what I'm
going
saying,
to make
yeah.
that movie. So at this point, we don't know when those contracts go null and void. We don't know when, if they get out of it. We don't know whether Jamie Foxx has a different deal with Sony in terms of just making movies and being a part of their brand.
Well, he did actually, because he had his contract was for not exclusively, from what I remember, just the Spider-Man franchise, like the Amazing Spider-Man. It was also open to other Sony Marvel films, because initially they were going to do a spin-off Sinister Six movie. So I think the flexibility maybe in that language allows Sony to maybe kind of utilize the same multi-picture agreement, you would think, for this film, in theory.
It's fair, and it's something to look at. And it could be the fact that, hey, maybe we still have this deal. Hey, Jamie, we still have this deal. We have a movie. We have another role for you if you want to, we're able to get this going if you want to do it. It's that kind of thing where it's like that, the loose language is very notorious in Hollywood, and I think that's something that's certainly just as much as a discussion point as any other thing when it comes to this story. It can't be ignored. Every angle is one to be looked at, and I think that some people are looking way too far into it, and other people aren't looking hard enough. And I think there's a medium here where Jamie Foxx wants to play this character, Marvel wants him to play this character, Sony has the ability to get him to play the character, and everyone's happy. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think what we might be seeing here is, again, the building towards the Sinister Six. And I really do believe that, this On the Run storyline, whether they use Kraven the Hunter or not in it, they definitely have the pieces, if they want, to set up a pseudo-Sinister Six just comprised of enhanced individuals leading the manhunt for Spider-Man in this instance, whether it's Scorpion and Electro or Scorpion, Electro, and Kraven. I mean, that right there would be 3 members, plus you add Mysterio, you add Vulture, that's 5. All you would need is maybe like a Doc Ock. All you would need is a Norman Osborn if you want to not go the Goblin route, but go like he's the master planner behind the scenes route, even though my first Spider-Man comic that I ever fully read was the Master Planner arc. So I have a soft spot for Doc Ock and a soft spot for Doc Ock being the master planner behind the scenes. I think the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show did a fantastic job with that. So I would love to see that. But I think they always could just go the Ultimate Universe route, which they've done tons of times before, with Spider-Man being the unofficial 6th member of the Sinister Six, even though, I'm sure they would rather have 6 villains. But just for the sake of kind of juggling that ensemble kind of cast. But, And yeah, so in Jackson, again, thanks for being on the episode. I think this episode was pretty solid. We had 4 good topics, and we had 4 good conversations, encompassing the episode. So for everyone, thanks for listening to the entirety of it. Again, if you want to listen to the entire audio, not split up into segments, and, when I say that, I mean including our bonus 4th segment, which, in my personal opinion, might have been our best segment, depending on your thoughts on the Eternals and everything. So go check it out. But that full audio is going to be on Spotify and SoundCloud, respectively. And they publish at noon Eastern time, same day as these video segments, which is Tuesday. And the video segments go up 4, 6, and 8 p.m. Eastern time. So go check it out there. And also go check out Jackson and Full Circle. And Jackson, I'll yet again let you kind of wrap it up by plugging in your links.
Yeah, so check us out, our work at FullCircleCinema.com, reporting every day. We're doing a review series this month with scary movies for Halloween, so be sure to check that out. You can follow us on Twitter at FullCircleCine, CINE, and you can follow me at JacksonHayes67 on Twitter. So yeah, check us out.
Sweet. All right, Jackson. Yeah, yet again, man, thanks for being on this episode, and everyone go check them out.